Hey everybody, welcome back to some more early morning barking, talking about BPD and NPD by somebody that has both. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons and do all the socially things scrolling past you on the screen right now. Feel free to hit the super thanks button. Those really help me out and help the channel and support me and everything, and you're all awesome for doing that. And also hit me up on getting stumbling over things. Never mind, whatever. Now I'm in a mood now. Patreon.com/earlymorningbarking is where you should go for extra videos and podcasts and stuff like that. Okay. Let me make a couple of things clear. I'm not here to argue with anybody or fall out with anybody or necessarily tell anybody they're wrong, although I'm sure I'll slip up and actually say that at some point in this video. So, sorry if I do that. My last video, 6 types of narcissistic abuse, was a fairly generic Ramani-esque YouTube narcissism video. It was a bit fillerish, wasn't it? Whatever. But I tried to put a bit of a slant on it from the narcissist point of view, right? It's a tricky subject to talk about, right? But what I didn't expect was somebody to argue with me that there's no such thing as narcissistic abuse, and that by talking about it in that way, I was perpetuating this lie that there's such a thing as narcissistic abuse. Which I really wasn't ready for, to be perfectly honest. That's never come up as a thing for me. I've never really debated the existence of narcissistic abuse. And to be honest, my position hasn't changed from where it was. I'm a person with NPD. It's very difficult to change my opinion. And I'm going to discuss this situation and where I stand with it. And you can feel free to agree with me or disagree with me, whatever. I'm not really trying to change opinions or whatever, because as I say, I don't think someone else could change my opinion very easily. So I'm not going to really try and change somebody else's. I will tell you what I think, though, about this whole situation. Because it's easier to talk about it than it is to type about it on Discord and that sort of thing. So, what frustrates me the most about this suggestion that I'm perpetuating a lie, a myth, was the reasoning behind it and the fact that I don't think I am. Right? I think that it's very easy to take one video and look at the title and look at it on the surface and find something wrong and complain about the message that I'm sending. But the truth was that message that I was accused of sending, that narcissistic people are just automatically abusive, is the opposite from the message that I sent. I've made numerous videos about dating narcissists and whether you should, and different types of NPD and how it works and how it functions. My message has always been and continues to be that not all people with NPD are abusive. That's my message. When I talk about getting into a relationship with someone with NPD, I always say it depends on your person with NPD. I can't make that decision because I don't know how their NPD plays out. What that means is that I'm not guaranteeing your person with NPD is abusive. I'm saying there's a good chance they might not be. I can say what to look out for, which is an important piece of this argument, actually, that we'll come back to. But I can't say for sure that anybody with NPD is abusive, and I never have, and I've always said the opposite. It depends on your person with NPD. But know what to look out for. Now then, the fact that I can say, here's the sort of thing you should look out for, is a big, interesting part of whether or not narcissistic abuse exists, right? Now, we know that there are abusive people who don't have NPD, right? And we know that there are abusive people who do have NPD. But that leaves out a couple of groups. That leaves out people who have NPD and aren't abusive, right? We're missing those people. I'd like to think I'm one of those people. We tend to be more self-aware, I would imagine. We know that we're doing wrong things and that sort of thing. But while there are abusive people with NPD and without, and while some of the things they might both do to be abusive might be the same, it's fair to say that when we look at people with NPD who are abusive, that they tend to perform the same types of things. Because that's inarguably the truth, right? The things that we group together as narcissistic abuse, the gaslighting, the manipulation, all of that stuff, right? We tend to see it in people with NPD who are abusive. Yeah, they're not the only people in the world who do that, but they do that. And of this Venn diagram we're building, right, we need to dig a little deeper into this one, this people with NPD who are abusive, because some of them will be abusive because of their NPD, and some of them will just be abusive because they're abusive and happen to have NPD. This is a really complicated issue with lots of groups of people, because everybody's NPD is different, because there are 9 markers, you have to have 5. You don't have to have 5 to do some of the things. You can have 4 markers, not be classed as having NPD, and still be quite an arsehole. And so to categorize it in even just 3 groups oversimplifies the situation. Now, I know from my own experience that abusive behavior can be entirely driven by problems coming from NPD, because mine were, right? It's not like a story I've told or something like that, right? I behaved abusively. I spent 3+ years in therapy and figured out why, and it all came down to fears and worries and all these things, right, that we just put in this big pile called NPD. I could get very specific about very specific problems and incidents and that sort of thing and what drives them, but for the purposes of this not taking an hour, trust me when I say my own problems were driven by NPD. And in some cases, BPD. Now, where those abusive behaviors played out were unique to me, with the places, the context, the people, the way in which they happened, the things I did, the things I said. That was all down to me, and how livable I was at that point, I don't know. It depends on who you were. Some people will never have had a problem with me. Some people will think, how can Rich be like that to people? And other people will hate me and really don't care if they never saw me again. Okay. But I know where it all came from, and I know it was driven by NPD, and I know that as I've spent that time delving into things, and not just my own things. I mean, I've done group therapy. I've delved into other people's things. That sounds disgusting, but you know what I'm saying. It's so driven by the NPD and the things the NPD bring about and the way that affects me. And it's impossible for somebody else to say, no, you're just abusive. I don't think so. I think maybe in my case, personally, speaking only for myself, some behaviors you could point to learned behaviors. Right? Some things were just my way of dealing with things because that's what I'd grown up around, and perhaps those things were bad. But a lot of them, honestly, more than weren't, were driven by NPD. And now I've dealt with that NPD more, those abusive behaviors have just gone away. And I continue to do this work, right? There's still weekly group therapy where I'm really going through a difficult part at the moment of the narcissism stuff that I've been dealing with. For me, it's been hidden deep underneath the BPD stuff. And it's the BPD stuff's gone away. It's been like, I don't know, clearing fog away so I can start dealing with these real problems. And so much of it is driven by NPD, and those abusive behaviors were too. They've gone now. And as I say, the way they played out were unique to me. They'll be different for you and everybody else, because not all narcissists are abusive. Not all narcissists are abusive in the ways that Ramani talks about, or that we see on other YouTube channels. But it would be ridiculous to say that those people don't exist, right? Of course they do. They're right there. Let's look at malignant narcissism, right? The real dark triad controlling stuff. I was driven by dark controlling things. Many people are. But not all of us are, right? And not all of us will stay like that forever. I keep saying that. I keep saying that we can get better. Otherwise, what's the point in doing this, right? Now I'm just talking about that. I'd just be making videos about how to treat people like crap and enjoy it because I think I can, right? That's not good, and that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get better. But what I'm not trying to do, right, is not take responsibility for the things that I've said and done. I'm not trying to say at any point, well, I did that because I've got NPD. You have to just forgive me now. Because that's not true. That doesn't feel right. There has to be remorse and regret. There has to be guilt and shame. These have to be feelings that you feel as part of getting better from NPD, because those things missing are generally what causes us to be abusive in the first place, right? We have a lack of empathy, so we don't think about how other people feel, about how we treat them, so we treat them how we feel like. Narcissistic abuse, that's what that is. I'm sorry, but we do have to take responsibility for it. I'm not saying we hide behind this. I'm not saying that we don't take responsibility for our actions, not for a second. I've never said otherwise. We have to do the right thing, and getting better involves taking responsibility for the things that we've done, right? We should have felt that guilt and shame at the time, and I don't see anything wrong with it, with feeling it now, right? It feels unjust to get away with some of the things we've done and feel nothing. And continuing to feel nothing about those things isn't healing. That's not getting better, is it? When you're better and you feel things and you feel empathy for others and you feel guilt and shame, then yeah, you should feel bad about bad things you've done. That's how that works. That's life. We just had this unfortunate situation where all of that was turned off and let us do these bad things without that guilt and shame. But it's getting turned back on as part of the healing process. So I still remember doing those things, right? I still have those memories that make me want to curl up in a ball and die, because they're... God, to call them cringeworthy doesn't seem to really cut it. And all, for me, driven by that NPD, driven by BPD for some of it. And so I don't think we have to try and pretend that narcissistic abuse doesn't exist, because it does. The difficulty that we face is that we're trying to have a nuanced argument, right? We're trying to talk about stuff at length, in detail, in a world that is broken down into 240 characters. And it's not possible to do that. We have to make, 15, 20-minute videos and talk about it at length. because that's how complicated these issues are. And I'm barely scratching the surface, aren't I? Really? That's what I tend to do. These things exist. We need to acknowledge that, right? We can't just say there's no such thing as narcissistic abuse because we don't want people to think that all narcissists are abusive. That's telling a lie. That's manipulation, right? That in its very essence is NPD. We're telling people what we want them to think so that they think what we want them to think. That's gaslighting and manipulation. I can't do that anymore. I have to be as truthful as I possibly can, right? And the truth is, some people are abusive because of their NPD. I know this because I was. And I'm not unique and special. There are others like me. So it's a thing. But the truth is, the actual truth, which is what we should want people to know, is that not all narcissistic people are abusive. That's the important part here. And we don't get that message across by misleading people and gaslighting them. We don't need to. We can be honest about this. We can say that some people with NPD are abusive because of their NPD. That is the thing. But not all of us are. And some people are abusive and don't have NPD. But not all people are. Right? This is a very simple debate that we seem to have a lot about a lot of groups of people in a lot of ways in the world right now. And it involves nuance. Not all people are this. Of course not all people are that. But we get caught up in this trap of yes, no, good, wrong, whatever. This very black and white thinking, which is not good, and it requires nuance. Our truth is, very importantly, that not all people with NPD are abusive. And those who aren't all abusive in the same way. And those who are might be abusive because of their NPD, or they might be abusive because of other reasons. It's so complicated. It's so nuanced. But when telling me what I'm saying, listen to what I'm saying. And I'll say it again just to be clear, because I've never moved on this, right? Not all people with NPD are abusive. I can't be clearer. Some might be. And I think we just absolutely have to acknowledge that some of them are because of their NPD. I don't know how to move on that. It seems fair. It seems reasonable, doesn't it? There are just so many groups of people. There are just so many possibilities and reasons and causes and effects that we can't possibly say that a particular group can't possibly exist. Or only exists compared to another group. Whatever, you know? I think we're all on the same side. I think we're all trying to push the same message. I'm just trying to do it in the right way, talking from my own experience. I know that it's fashionable and popular to demonize people with NPD, right? When you look at Ramani and her AI-generated titles that always include the word narcissist or narcissism, it's all clickbait. It's all just there to get people who have been hurt by people with NPD. Because there's a lot of those people. It's almost as if there's some types of abuse that we commonly do. And they're great for watching YouTube videos. And it's relentless. It hurts, right? Because you see these videos come out day after day. And they are daily of what you've done, how horrible we are, how the people we've affected need to recover, and all of this sort of stuff. And you're just sat at home watching telly, thinking, what the hell? I get it. I feel that too. I feel that frustration as well, which is really what I'm most annoyed about with that last video. That I did one that was a bit like that. And I hate that. But I'm leaving it up there. You know, I don't take videos down. I'm not getting into that crap. And I think what we need to do as a group, as a community, as people with a condition, is talk about the truth and acknowledge that some of the things that people worry about us with are true, but that they're not true for all of us, because that's the truth, isn't it? That's the truth. Like I say, I'm not trying to anger anybody. I'm not trying to yuck your yum, so to speak. This is just where I stand on it. I think we're all on the same side. I think we all want to know. I think we all want people to know that people with NPD aren't inherently evil and vile people. And so we can we can figure out how to do that. When we're working together towards a common cause, we can disagree on how to do that along the way, as long as we're trying to do the same thing. And I think we are, which is good. So I hope that's in some way helpful or beneficial in some way. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot we should acknowledge and talk about, and it's complicated. But as long as we can keep on talking and discussing things, then we'll make progress. So you take care, and I'll see you later. Bye.